let me introduce to you my guest for today, Yaro Kasambata. He is a lecturer and is a lecturer in Security and Intelligence Management at UPSA. We also have another guest who's coming in a little later, Duncan Amoah of COPEC. He'll be here with us very soon. Good morning, Mr. Kasambata. How are you doing?
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So before we get into our stories for the day, just your thoughts on Ahmed Hussein Suale a year on.
I was privileged to be in the studio during the statements you and your colleague made. I think the summary of everything you said is how we construct a social order. What kind of society do we aspire to construct?
Okay.
And this is where then you identify the key blocks of building that society. And that will include your politicians who are vested with power to change things, people with the power to make laws that govern society, institutions that enforce order, and the police service, the judiciary, the prison service, and all these, other agencies will come in.
Yes.
Because in the end, you want to send a signal. The signal you want to send is that if you commit a crime, you will be found. It doesn't matter how long, but you will be found.
Yeah.
And our police service have had to deal with many of these high-profile crimes that they are yet to update us on how far they've reached with the investigations. We also saw recently what happened with the Takoradi girls who were kidnapped, and how they handled everything wrongly right from the start. So I join in the chorus that the police service must do everything in its power to find the killers of not only Ahmed Suale but all other persons in our recent memory who have been murdered, and send a signal to the rest of society that this society does not condone crime. And I think it is the least signal they can send in a very subtle way to society, that we will not condone crime, and that if crime occurs, we will go every mile to bring the perpetrators to justice. So I think we still have opportunity to turn it around, and we can only count on our police service to improve professionalism, do everything in their power to ensure that they can turn this around.
Okay, all right. I want to introduce my next guest to you, Duncan Amoah, who is the Executive Secretary of COPEC, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Good morning, Duncan Amoah. How are you doing?
Let me say good morning and then apologize to your viewers. A bit of traffic.
No, it's okay. You're here. And it's good to have you here. Happy New Year to you.
Many, many happy returns. May 2020 be much better than 2019 was for everyone, including your good selves here at Citi TV. Thank you.
I just asked Yaro here to give us, just initial thoughts. We are coming on a year to the anniversary of Ahmed Hussein Suale's murder, and I don't know if you have any thoughts just to share with us briefly before we start.
I think it's one of those moments I would wish to have forgotten. You have a budding young investigative journalist whose contribution to the fight against corruption in this country and elsewhere across the world has been quite phenomenal. Now, we fail to protect such people. We allowed a few bad ones to haunt them and eventually get rid of these people. If you ask me why nobody so far is still being held for that killing, though earlier we had a lot of issues. Somebody has been arrested, people have been traced. If you ask the families of such journalists who have suffered in their line of work, I'm not sure they would say they've received anything called justice. I'm not sure the service these men and women offered your country, Ghana, even has been duly acknowledged by way of some compensations to these families, because these are people who put their lives on the line in order that the country may rid itself of one of the funny things eating up our resources, corruption.
Yeah.
And so when anything happens to them and the families are now even having to beg for justice, and we've only paid lip service, back to back with these issues. Yeah. I, as a Ghanaian, I do feel ashamed. I do feel sad. And I would wish that our leaders would not give up on such persons, because the fight against corruption, of course, when you are in government, it doesn't sound a very nice song. But once you cross to the other side and you see the little resources that we all contribute being wasted, then you become quite passionate about why our roads are poor, our healthcare is still in the sort of condition it is. It's simply because the monies are going into a few individual pockets, much to the disadvantage of all of us having to benefit by way of improved infrastructure and service delivery across the country. So I think that we should stop paying lip service. Ahmed Suale's killing, as unfortunate as it may be, the circumstances surrounding the thereafter has been even more unfortunate, because we haven't seen much action. Not many people that thought justice would be served seem to have gotten anything out of this altogether, my brother.
Okay. All right. Let me start with the first story that we want to discuss is the shooting at the stadium over the weekend, and I want to start with you specifically because of your security background. Let me read quickly the story from citynewsroom.com, and then we'll have the conversation. Police interdict officer who shot Kotoko fan with rubber bullet. The Ashanti Regional Police Command has interdicted the police officer who allegedly shot and injured an Asante Kotoko fan with a rubber bullet at the Baba Nyara Stadium, Sports Stadium in Kumasi on Saturday. The incident occurred when supporters of Kumasi Asante Kotoko Football Club went on the rampage after their league match against Brekum Chelsea Football Club at the stadium. The fans of the Porcupine Warriors were up in arms over a decision by the referee, which resulted in their defender, Mpem Da Costa, being sent off. The fans allegedly damaged some police vehicles and injured some police officers with stones that were pelted. It was during this period that a police officer was alleged to have shot rubber bullets into the crowd, injuring one of the Kotoko fans in the face. The police noted in a statement. The Ashanti Regional Command said it had taken a very serious view of the incident and has subsequently commenced an investigation into the action of the police officer involved in the shooting. The officer has since been interdicted on the instruction of the regional commander, pending investigation, the statement added. All right. Now, I want to ask a couple of questions regarding this. First of all, what's the normal protocol in a situation where there seems to be a brewing, if I can call it a mob that is, growing in a place like a stadium? So, first of all, stadium is an enclosed environment, so we know what that means if the mob goes crazy. But as far as the police are concerned, what's the normal protocol? Would you say because I've also heard of weapons being fired in the air. But in this case, the story says they shot straight into the crowd. Tell us what your thoughts are on this and then the fallout of this so far.
From the story you've read, the supporters in the stadium pelted the police people with stones.
Yes.
Some of them got injured.
Yes, and damaged some vehicles.
Yes. So for a policeman to be injured with a pelted stone means that he was poorly kitted, for the operation.
Okay.
Now, you don't send policemen to police a crowd in the numbers that we saw at the stadium and leave them with vulnerabilities.
Okay.
So that they could be injured with stones. If the crowd had fired guns, then we know that guns can even penetrate through, a certain degree of a hardened barrier if it's close to the skin. You don't get police officers poorly kitted to undertake a job so that in the course of the reaction, you get the police people realizing that some of their colleagues are injured by the stones that the crowds were pelting.
Yeah.
And then that immediately sets the police people on frenzy.
Yeah.
Now, at that moment, the police is deciding what to do. He's reacting to a situation.
Yeah.
And that is where you have the problem. All throughout the story you've read, culpability will still land squarely with the police service. The police service have had a history of handling crowds poorly. Every now and then it comes up, we talk about it, somebody is interdicted, somebody may be, suspended, reduced in rank, but then the next time we get another incident, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You remember the May 9th disaster in which the police approached it poorly, and that led to a series of events which then, ended up with a lot of people dead. The same thing could have played out in Kumasi had the crowd acted in a certain way following the shooting of the supporter who got injured by the rubber bullets. I think this goes to illustrate the competence gap the police has in dealing with crowds. And every opportunity the police service can create to improve that capacity, they have to do so. The commander at the Kumasi or the Ashanti region sending his men to police a crowd, whereas they could be injured with stones, clearly illustrate that they were not, fully dressed or properly dressed, for the purpose. Yeah. We have helmets, we have shields, you have all kinds of things that at least it can make them resist things like stones. Yeah. But unfortunately, from the story you are reading, the police showed up, poorly kitted. Yeah. So I think it will also go to illustrate the logistical inadequacy of the police service. So here you have issue of competence, you have the logistics. And I think that the leadership and managerial competence of the police service also has to improve. Because these, incidents where police people show up policing a crowd and all of a sudden things go wrong, we have to reduce such incidences. Yeah. Crowds have the potential of assuming their own identity. Yes. The psychology of crowd is that things that you and I will not do when we're alone, if we're in a crowd, we'll do, because the quality of invisibility is there. Because they will say the crowd did it. Yes. We cannot point to who did it. Exactly. Yeah. Nobody will own up to doing the thing. So when people are in a crowd, they behave differently. And this is why the police service, as a professional institution, need to be clothed with the competence to be able to deal with a situation like that. We cannot have a situation where every time the police is encountering a crowd, there are casualties. Yeah. We should try as much as possible to improve the logistics, improve training, improve competence, and also perhaps at this stage we also need to address the organizers of such events. Now, the Kumasi Stadium, if it's like the Accra Sports Stadium, you mean the the crowd went into the stadium with the stones on them, or they carried the stones in there. How did they enter with stones on them?
So there's a video I saw. I saw two different videos, shot from two different angles, and I'm sure these were mobile phone video footage of what was happening. But the shooting doesn't seem to have happened inside the stadium. It seems to have happened outside the stadium. Now, the sense I get, even from the story, is that if the vehicles were pelted, the vehicles are not parked in the stadium, they are parked outside the stadium.
Right.
Which means that the crowd action took
place outside the confinement.
Took place when maybe the fans were leaving and they were incensed. So in the course of leaving, they just took out their anger on the easiest target, most visible target they could find. This is my sense I get, And so the police, they did have a choice. They could have given warning shots, in that sense. They were not besieged by any description. They were not besieged at all, So that also calls into question the issue of training, and I don't know what you think.
So I think, the three issues come into play. Competence, professionalism, training. The police should be able to get to the point where they liaise with the Ghana Football Association and improve training, capability. They should create such scenarios from time to time and get the police to specialize in covering events such as footballs, Asante Kotoko, and then House of Folk every now and then will play. And every time such events take place, I would encourage the Ghana Football Association to collaborate with the Ghana Police Service to see if they could even create a unit responsible for policing soccer, because soccer comes with hooliganism. It comes with all kinds of behavior that you need police people specially trained for it. I think after the May 9th events, we ought to have had this a long time ago, a standing team that specializes in policing soccer. So they build this competence over time.
Okay.
We can achieve this with a weekend match every now and then. You need a dedicated team that focus purely on doing this. Okay. And I think that would be the solution I suggest to the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Football Association, and all other sporting clubs and interests in this country should come together and see how they can work with the Ghana Police Service to improve the police ability to police the soccer events. Because look, it is in the name of such events that people come together.
Yes.
I don't think when they come together, the intention they have is to leave the place injured or manhandled. So I think going forward, this is what I think the police should do. All the sporting agencies in Ghana should collaborate, and the police should also look at how they can establish a team on its own that specifically develops the competence over time. Yeah. I mean, because we can't be having such reports going forward.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Let me come to you, Duncan Amoah. I'll quickly read something here. This is also published on citinewsroom.com, also on this morning. Kotoko hit with temporary home ban after crowd trouble. Okay, the GFA has handed a temporary home ban to Asante Kotoko following the violent incidents that occurred during the team's match against Brekum Chelsea in the Ghana Premier League this past weekend. The GFA, in a statement, said the ban was based on Article 14 of its regulations, which highlights the safety of match centres. The article states that the GFA may order the closure of any league centre or venue where the safety of clubs, match officials, and or spectators cannot be guaranteed. The association said the ban is in place pending the adjudication of the matter by the GFA disciplinary committee. Now, lessons from 2001, 19 years ago, 126 people lost their lives in a horrific stadium disaster. talking with Yaro earlier, it looks as though many lessons that should have been learned, we profess to have learned lessons, but in practice, the evidence on the ground says otherwise. In both cases, this weekend was with Brekum Chelsea, Asante Kotoko. That one was Hearts of Oak, Asante Kotoko. Asante Kotoko is, and I'm not suggesting anything by this, but they appeared in both scenes, right? This ban, is it, number one, enough? Do you think it's enough as a message to send home, to drive home that you need to keep your fans in check? Okay. And then other thoughts that you have regarding what's going on?
Well, let me start by saying I do not even think the ban is necessary.
Okay. Why not?
You have a crowd, teaming supporters. They may have come to the stadium with one thing in mind, to enjoy their football.
Yes.
For one or two reasons, they were not too happy with certain decisions that the referee did take. Now, the issue of whether they would be able to handle such, things as an organized unit is one thing. And I do not think that any football club would also parade on its own hooligans to attack the police. It calls into question the response, that probably the police meted. And then again, if you just oppose with the May 9 disaster and a whole committee or commission and a report and all of that, a lot of valuable lessons should have been in there for all of us. Is the Ghana police still going ahead with just sending any day plainclothes police or any uniform police to such venues, or it has a specific crowd management unit that you continue to train, retrain, and retrain until such a point that their emotional intelligence ability goes above the ordinary person. You see, I may not have training. The mob, the crowd may not have training. But if I am coming in as a law enforcement officer or someone to protect lives and property, my emotional intelligence should be up ante. I do not need to come in just as the mob.
The regular person.
So I should have all possible scenarios and how to deal with them without necessarily killing or injuring people, in such situations. And so I would, at this material point, want to believe that Ghana Police Service is still not learning, its lessons. It's good to have officers. It's good to put uniforms on them. But it's a lot better to ensure these officers are above a certain, trigger-happy situation where, because I have a gun, so the moment I am confronted, my first line of defense is the use of the gun. You could demobilize, you could disempower people, sometimes without having to fire, guns. You may have also had to use other things as tear gas or canisters, things just to get people scattered so that they do not team up to misbehave. It doesn't look as though they went to the stadium prepared. And I'm quite certain if the mob had thickened, the results would have been disastrous, because people went in there in uniform. The only bits that they probably thought to defend themselves with were guns. And that clearly cannot be the first line of defense against persons who may be pelting stones. If indeed, like Yaro said, they had gone in with some protective clothing or fully protected or covered, when you realize these guys were unhappy and were misbehaving in the stadium, your vehicles would have been moved long ago.
All right.
Your officers would probably have been positioned in such a way as to ensure people just move away and not, even team up to misbehave. So clearly,
Duncan, don't lose your thought. I'll come back to you again. Let's take a short break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And you send us some messages. I have one here to read to you. A.U. Farouk from Tamale North constituency says, good morning. In fact, the incident at the Babanyara Stadium, it's unfortunate. Due diligence must be done. #Breakfast Daily. All right, keep the messages coming. The show is interactive, so we'll be expecting to hear from you. All right, so Duncan, you were speaking just before we went for the break. Any final thoughts on this matter of the stadium?
But if you ask me 1,000 times, I would insist the police would need to train. They would need to retrain. They would need to retrain again. It cannot be said that the same situations that we saw 19 years ago plays back 19 years thereafter, and it looks as though we have not really departed. I would not wish that any supporter going to a football stadium even goes with that mindset, I may not come back. Elsewhere, it's relatively safe. When even you find, the most hooliganist of supporters, the English supporters, there is a way they manage these guys such that they are happy to come back the following weekend. They are happy to come anytime to enjoy their football without such melee. Unfortunately, it looks as though in our situation, anytime people are unhappy with sports and they express misgiving one way or the other, either they are met with unequal force or some, lack of emotional intelligence. There are a lot of police officers who demonstrate ample intelligence in dealing with issues. Others, like I always say, are also in there because, of course, they need jobs. So they do not understand that it is their job to protect lives and property. That is the first call of a police officer.
Yes.
Yours is not to shed or lose lives or lose property or just shoot anyhow. Okay. I was with the Ghana law students when they protested recently. And if you look at the sort of force that was meted out to these harmless protesters, it tells you that the police are not training these crowd control units well enough. Because if persons come and the only things they have are stones, right? Your first line of defense probably should be these tear gas and other things that should be able to disperse them ordinarily. Unless these are hardened criminals, you don't just use a gun because you have it available. I do think that the IGP, if he's listening, would ensure that the crowd control unit of the Ghana Police Service is given enough training. If it means bringing in experts, Yaro and his people and foreign experts to continuously train them to understand that as a police officer, your job is not to be trigger happy, but to protect lives and property. Protect as best as possible.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next story. I'm going to start with you on that one. We're going to talk about a new register and the various conversations going on regarding that. Let me quickly read this story here. So on CitiNewsroom.com, we have, we are ready to engage political parties opposing new voters register. The Electoral Commission says it is ready to engage the various political parties, especially those opposing the decision to compile a new voters register ahead of the national polls this year, 2020. Inasmuch as most of the parties in the country are backing the decision for a new register, a total of 8 opposition parties are against the move and have vowed to use any means possible to have the EC abort the plan. They embarked on a massive demonstration in Tamale last Saturday with an assurance to stage such an exercise in Kumasi and Accra in the coming days. But speaking to Bernard Avle on the Point of View on Citi TV, the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Bosman Asari, said the Commission is always open to discuss with the various political parties with regards to the new electoral register. As far as, and I quote, the EC is concerned, our doors are open. We will still engage the parties. Very soon, we will have an IPAC meeting to call all the parties for us to look at the modalities, how we are going to do it. How we're going to do it. So we wish that all the parties will come on board. If there are certain ways we can do certain things to mitigate the concerns of others, the EC is ready to do that, he stated. Now, I'll quickly read another story here from the Ghanaian Times, page 18. It says, the headline here says, "We will go ahead with new voters register." Yes. The Electoral Commission has insisted, all right, that it will go ahead to compile a new voters register despite the protest by some political parties and civil society organizations saying the new register would be in the national interest. According to the EC, the decision was not only based on preserving an independent body, but also offered a sound and prudent management on the country's financial resources. Mrs. Sylvia Ano, acting Deputy Director of Public Affairs, Department of the EC, in an exclusive interview with the Ghanaian Times yesterday, argued that the process of acquiring a new voter management system in a new voters register was the best way to go in the face of escalating costs of maintaining the current system, which was also flawed with ghost names. According to her, it has been estimated that the total replacement of the register in 2020 was going to cost 390 million Ghana cedis, including the hiring of officials and other materials. Excuse me. The EC Public Affairs Acting Director said that the cost of refurbishing the obsolete biometric voter register kits, as proposed by the former vendor, was going to cost $5,145 per kit, including taxes. Adding that the new kit was estimated at a cost of $3,500 inclusive of taxes, saying upgrading the BVD costs $244 to a new one, which will cost $917. Okay, so basically, what she's saying is that regardless of what anybody thinks, you're going to go ahead because financially it makes sense. And besides, they are an independent body. They can do what they like.
I do have strong words, but I do think...
Just suppose that versus what the Bossman Asari is also saying. Because he is saying, look, we're going to call an IPAC meeting, we'll discuss it, we'll negotiate, we'll allay your fears and all of that.
My words are strong currently in my head, but I'm not sure.
Let's hear them.
No. You probably wouldn't
too strong.
They are too strong. Let them play their politics anyhow they want. But the ordinary Ghanaian is looking for roads. The ordinary Ghanaian is looking for good potable water.
You think EC is playing politics?
No, I'm not interested in the EC.
Okay.
I'm interested in the way and manner we dissipate resources in this country.
Okay.
When Ghanaians were crying for lights on the motorway, right? After 6, the whole place is dark. You are paying toll, and if your car is in a distress situation, there is no rescue, there is no towing service, there's no ambulance, there is nothing, right? So the people who are contributing the monies daily, the essential bits that they need to be given, you'll be told there's no money.
Yeah.
Yet, on the altar of whimsical political, whatever they want to do, there's always money. Is this not becoming one too many? You recall not long ago, there was the issue of let's go and build a new parliamentary chamber.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas on a normal day, if you enter parliament, there are sometimes 60%, capacity, 50, sometimes 40. There are times the speaker has had to call off, parliamentary debate for lack of quorum or numbers in there. If Ghanaians had not spoken against it, we would have spent a whopping 200 million USD building another chamber. That money is sitting somewhere, right? Yet let Ghanaians in Bumpurugu Yoyo say that our roads are super dusty. So what we are inhaling is even, contributing to our poor health situation. Yes. And once they even contract diseases, the hospitals do not have beds. People have to lie on the floor, even in the capital. These things are of no importance to our political leadership. What is important to them is what benefits them, if they like, right? They should call off 2020 elections, if they like, and use these monies to develop infrastructure for Ghanaians to be able to benefit. I'm sure every Ghanaian would clap for them. But this situation where you wake up, we need 300 million, 400 million, 500 million, 700, the monies they mention sometimes. Chief, I'm sure if it had been shared to every Ghanaian, people would get 1,000 cedis. At least to go about, something, some business or something. Yeah. But they would waste these monies. And at the end of the day, the same problem that they pretend to cure today, a few years down the line, the same institutions will come back and tell us, when we were going for the biometric registration, we were told your fingerprints and everything will make it more secure and things can be done in a proper way. You wake up just a few years down the line, we now need to add facial recognition. Look, I hear all manner of those for and those against. And I'm saying, look, leave our resources alone if you don't have any better use for them. If you can't provide street lights to protect lives and property within the country, right? If you cannot use these monies to provide good roads, I heard the concerned drivers, the committed drivers, true drivers, saying use those monies to lift their roads. These are guys you are taking monies from on a day-to-day basis. You take vehicle income tax from. You come and take all the taxes on petroleum products. Yet, when the year ends, you tell them to send their vehicles to DVLA for road worthy. The roads are not car worthy. That is not the concern of any political leadership, right? Their interest is who is winning 2020, who doesn't win, how to manipulate the system, whether it costs us 1 billion Ghana cedis or 2 billion, we'll throw in these monies and Ghanaians cannot say anything. I am telling them that a majority of Ghanaians today may not be entirely interested in who is winning 2020 or not. They are interested in their roads being lifted at least. So that when I'm leaving home with my small car that I've taken a bank loan to buy, I know that that car can at least last me 5 years. Not a year and the car is already so rickety. It's not my fault. At the end of the year, I have to go to DVLA. DVLA says your back shocks, your brake, this system, blah, blah. Your roads are bad.
Yeah.
Look, I do not want to resort to the use of strong language. But the nonsense has got to stop at a point. Don't pretend to cure a situation today. So many millions of Ghana cedis is thrown in there simply because we need to get a president. Ghanaians are interested in the president because they believe the president will come and solve their problems. Yeah. If you are not solving our problems and the only thing you want to do is to use federal monies to elect other presidents, please leave the state. Let's go back to wherever and give us good roads. Yeah. There are countries where you will not find sometimes a pothole over 100-kilometer stretch. Ghana, you cannot do 1 kilometer without potholes in most parts of the country. And yet, look at where our priorities lie. When it comes to the useless stuff, there's always money. We have approved budgets. We are going to spend these monies. Ghanaians should come and queue. Look, if I had an advice for Ghanaians, nobody should go and queue anywhere. Why spend money, go and queue, and give somebody...
You're saying we shouldn't vote?
No. You may have to vote, but seriously, we are being taken for a ride for far too long. The minimum services provide us street lights, right?
Yeah.
It's getting to an election. The motorway is getting, street lights on gradually. We are getting to election. So Ghanaians are going to see a bit of what they have contributed over the years. Go and check that street light after just 2-3 months. It will be off. And that is not of concern to us. Go and check the state of healthcare in Ghana today. Yeah. People go in. My mother, at a point, had to be admitted, right? A normal bed, they couldn't find. They have to take her to a special, room or something and be paying more. These monies that they talk about, I'm telling you, can buy hospital beds, can upgrade healthcare to a large extent. But that is not their concern. Their concern is who becomes MP, who becomes... We don't care.
All right.
We do not care.
On that note, let me hear what Yaro has to say. The new voters register. Your thoughts?
My thought on this subject matter is this. The tension that is brewing over this, it's just not the issue of the new register. So I'd like us to look at the issues a little bit more detailed and then see if we can unravel where the knot is and then see if we can untie it. Because prior to this announcement, we had the Ghana card registration.
Yes.
And there were rumors that it is the Ghana card that will be used for the new register. Yeah. As we speak, not every Ghanaian has got the Ghana card yet.
No.
So part of the fear is that with the announcement that there will be a new register, it means that all existing voters who don't have Ghana card won't find their name inside the new register. So it is part of the anxiety. So I think the Electoral Commission, as part of the public engagement, should clarify some of these issues. What would be the criteria for getting onto the new register? If I have an existing voter ID, does it qualify me to go on? Especially because now it's facial recognition, enhanced technology. I think if I have an old card, am I qualified to go in there? If I have a Ghana card, am I qualified to go in there? What would be the cutoff point?
Yeah.
Okay. I think in the midst of the heat and the tension and the desire of the Electoral Commission to engage, I think the engagement should answer critical questions that go to, dilute the anxiety. Because if people know that I would actually get on board anyway, with my new card, with my old voter ID, I am qualified to queue, get my details taken, and I'm on the new register. I think the part of the anxiety will be reduced.
Okay.
When people act out of fear, lack of information, anxiety, they, sometimes can embark on, some of the things that we are seeing. So I think the Electoral Commission should be concerned about, these, issues people are raising, and then come out with clear guidelines that, look, the idea to get a new register is not to get all existing people who don't have the Ghana card off it. If you have Ghana card, you are going in there. If you have an existing voter ID, you are getting in there. I think with these two issues, clarified, part of the anxiety should be able to, dilute. And then we can perhaps approach this exercise in a manner that will not increase the temperature. Look, this year's election,
can't afford it.
Yes, is only one of the many elections that will happen within the, sub-region. Now you have youth unemployment, you have terrorism in the sub-region, and there seems to be a certain global rise in tensions, youth agitation, crowds, going on rampage.
Yeah.
We don't have to see the, signs clear and ignore them. So I think the Electoral Commission should look at, the environment within which all these, concerns are being raised, so that in the end you don't, get a situation where the voter registration or the new voter registration is used as a ruse to, create disorder, rampage, and the likes. Because this election can only take place in a safe environment. It can only take place in a stabilized environment. And so the Electoral Commission in all their engagement should also be concerned about the stability of our environment and ensure that the key issues that people may be afraid of, once their engagement addresses some of these key issues, I am sure we should be able to reduce the anxiety, gain cooperation, and then go forward with this.
Okay. Now, very quickly, before we go from here, I want us to touch on the last story, which is about the Okada use. Now, last year, 732 people died on our roads related to Okada use. The Road Safety Authority says is awaiting policy direction on Okada use. I have a bit of a challenge with that in and of itself, because in 2012, the use of motorbikes for commercial transport in Ghana was actually outlawed under Regulation 128.124 of the Road Traffic Regulations in 2012, which states, the licensing authority shall not register a motorcycle to carry a fare-paying passenger. And the law also prohibits any person from using a motorcycle or tricycle for commercial purposes except for courier services. When did this law become unbanned? So that the Road Safety Authority is now waiting policy direction on Okada use. We don't have too much time, so just brief thoughts.
Well, the makers of that law ought to have known that law was going to be difficult to enforce. You are dealing with a law. You must first look at rationality. Motorcycle in a congested city like Africa, people look for speed, convenience, accessibility. Motorbikes can get to places in this country that vehicles don't get to. The problem with the accidents, the injuries, and the deaths are arising out of lack of skills that are teachable. If you focus on teaching the skills, road safety, these things are teachable. If you are concerned about Okada killing people, how about a bus that takes 50 people at a time, 100 people at a time, and then it collides with another one and 100 people die on the spot? Are we going to ban buses? So solutions to problems like this in Africa has to be comprehensive. You have to diagnose the problem. Now, if the problem is arising out of a competence that is teachable, focus on teaching it. Our system currently doesn't have a framework for training and licensing motorcyclists. I've been riding for 30 years, and I'll ride again tomorrow if I get the opportunity. Riding can be made safer if the person knows what he's doing. The clashes we have with drivers and the riders on the road is because already vehicle drivers think that motorcyclists are a nuisance on the road. The competition on the road is such that even the driver doesn't look in his side mirror when he's about to switch lanes. It is perhaps the leading cause of the accidents and the injuries. Can we begin to tell drivers that before you switch lanes, look in your side mirrors? You could cut these accidents by about 50%. Because most of the motor riders take the lane, the middle lane, when the roads are congested, isn't it?
Which I understand is actually illegal.
It's illegal. You're actually not allowed to be in the middle of the lane, because if you're going to ride a bike, be
behind the cars.
But you see, where there's traffic congestion, the motorbike exploits his competitive advantage. It's rationalism. People act based on, how they think, look, I can beat this and get away with it. Because how do I stay in traffic
when there's way?
When I can maneuver.
Okay, let me come to you quickly before we go.
Okada.
Yes, Okada.
I have had an experience. Once I was late, so decided to use an Okada. It gets you there. Yes, it will get you there if you are lucky. In a few circumstances, you don't get there. But like Yaro said, are these motorbikes going to be recustomed such that they can safely pick people from one point to the other? In cities across, even in Japan, Tokyo, there are spaces where you have to park your car. There are bikes you could pick in Sweden. There are spaces where your car and a bike could move you to. But here, it doesn't look as though we even have designated lanes for motorbikes.
No, we don't.
And so they have to compete for the same routes that the vehicles are using. I do think that traffic congestion in the city is real. I do think that in order to ease down on traffic, the Okada poses some potential, right, to enable us all move from one space to the other.
Yeah.
But we need to ensure they are also safe. If it means we should get motorbikes that have the third leg, right? Just 2 ties at the back that can have, a passenger comfortably seated. Those ones are a bit difficult to tilt to left or right. So we need to explore the dynamics and see how we can save Ghanaians from the accidents.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Yaro Kasambata, who's a lecturer in Security and Intelligence Management at UPSA, and to Duncan Amoah, who is the Executive Secretary of COPEC.
Hi there. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with all of your friends. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.